It's been way too long since I've done one of these videos. What's good? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're kicking off the next entry in the How to Play series. If you're new to the channel, welcome aboard. I'm glad you found us. Today's video series will be a deep dive breakdown on a particular archetype. Today's topic will be Raging Bolt Ogerpon, where I've spent the last few weeks, probably about 5 weeks at this point, learning the ins, the outs, the good, the bad, the ugly, everything you need to know when picking up this deck in a post-rotation world. No catches, no hooks, no nothing. If you enjoy the video, dropping a comment, letting me know what you enjoyed the most would be great. The ultimate compliment would be sharing it with a friend, somebody who maybe wants to play the deck or somebody who wants to play the Pokemon trading card game. I'm hoping that I simplify it all so that anybody can just jump in and enjoy this lovely game. Now let's dive in. Let's see what we've got to talk about today. So a brief summary, we're going to take a look at all of the essential cards that you'll see in a Raging Bolt deck. We're going to compare the Owl and no Owl variants, because I'm biased to one side, if this slide doesn't give it away. Game plan. Having a repeatable game plan is a good thing. No matter what somebody tells you, being able to do the same thing over and over again with a little bit of variance is nice. Things to watch for. Raging Bolt has been a threat for over a year now, and it's not going anywhere for the foreseeable future. So, of course, it's developed a few enemies. Good to be at least a little familiar with who's coming for your neck, because you've got a pretty long neck. And getting started. So I'm going to hold your hand and walk through my step-by-step deck building process. So this I use for pretty much all of the decks I build. Once I get to the 60, I'll give it a little bit of testing to see what does and doesn't work, and then refine it there. And then, of course, the matchup guide. People want to know, generally, what am I doing against certain decks? I'm not going to give you a play-by-play, but I am going to give you general rules to take away and help you improve against those matchups. And lastly, closing thoughts. We are in April. 2025 still has plenty of Pokemon cards for us to see, and we are supposed to be getting a new mechanic towards the end of the year. I will talk about that towards the end, and I'm going to let you know where Raging Bolt stands through it all, because this is a very, very good deck. Taking a look, Raging Bolt. It's a 240 hit point Dragon Pokemon. 240 hit points on a basic is nothing to scoff at. That was a number we never would have seen on a 2-prizer. It has no weakness, conditionally. So there's a few cards in format that can add a weakness, but for now, you're a pretty chonky boy. No damage cap. The Bellowing Thunder attack is the main reason why we're here. You may discard any number of basic energy from your Pokemon. The attack does 70 damage for each card you discarded. 1 is 70, 2 is 140, 3 is 210, 4 is 280, 5 is 350, and if you ever need it, 6 is 420. Don't worry, I have a nice visual. I'm not just going to leave you with the words. We'll get to that one later in the video. It has reliable acceleration. Lightning and Fighting at a first glance looks really ugly to accelerate, but we have quite a few cards that you can pick from to get energy on this and on surrounding Pokemon to swing turn after turn after turn. The quick drawbacks, I don't really see them as drawbacks, but I figured I'd mention them. Doesn't hit for weakness. Oh no, just chalk in a couple more energy. It's dead. Needs help setting up. Who doesn't in this format? Badoo is everywheres. And this deck can be lock susceptible if you go too far into one strategy. I like to put my eggs in a couple baskets. Nothing wrong with that. Ancient support. Raging Bolt has the fantastic tag of being an ancient Pokemon. And they were blessed with some very, very good support, regardless of the Pokemon. Professor Sada's Vitality is our primary supporter in the deck. Doesn't matter how you build the deck, this is going to be a 4 of. Choose 2 of your ancient Pokemon and attach a basic energy from your discard pile to each of them. Amazing. Plus draw 3 cards. So 2 energy, draw 3 cards. Earthen Vessel, it's an item card. Discard a card from your hand, grab 2 of those energy, reveal them, put them into your hand. You can go Vessel, grab 2, discard 1 with a second Vessel, grab 2 more. You can really start thinning out the deck and making Sada's Vitality a threat to just draw you what you really want. So it almost feels like a draw more because you've pulled so much out of the deck. Booster Capsule, an additional 60 hit points plus removing all special conditions. The special conditions was always an afterthought, but with the way the game has shifted post-rotation, there's a lot more poison running around than you'd have thought. So being able to remove that, deny that is very, very handy, and I love this card for that. Cat's out of the bag. We're running with the Tera support. We are Team Owl here, so you might be Team Owl or no Owl. I am Team Owl because there's so many goodies to like. First off, we've got Teal Mask Ogrepon. Has bench protection, so it can't be hit from the bench. It has an ability, once during your turn, you can attach a basic grass energy from your hand to this Pokemon if you did draw a card. So it's a small sliver of draw, but more importantly, it's an additional energy attachment on the board. So we have Sada to get 2 on the board, plus turn attach is 3. Plus 1 Teal Dance is 280. Oh my god, look at that. We have 280 damage on the board right out of nowhere. Second Teal Mask, 350. Everything in the game is dead off of Bellowing Thunder. Lovely. How do we make sure that that's repeatable when we need it? With Jewel Seeker. So it is a Tera support Pokemon that says once during your turn, when you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve, you can search if you have a Tera in play, you may search your deck for up to 2 trainer cards, reveal them, put them into your hand. You can use any other Tera Pokemon. It has to be on the bench before you evolve it into Noctowl. But Teal Mask Ogrepon draws a card, which is why we include it, right? It draws a card, accelerates an energy, so it's the bona fide like go-to pick for the Noctowl engine. Grab your combo pieces, whatever you need to make your Bellowing Thunder hit as hard as you can. Area 0 is one of my favorite stadiums ever printed. Each player, if you have a Tera Pokemon in play, can have up to 8 bench Pokemon. I love being able to expand the bench, do a little bit more, and then when you're ready to pull the rug on that Area 0, you can kind of shrink your bench down. So bench management in a Tera deck is so much fun. It really allows you to play more levels to this game. And then Fan Rotom, it's included in here because it grabs your Hootoots and it grabs your Noctowl. So it allows you to grab 3 colorless Pokemon with 100 hit points or less. The most common strategy you'll see is double Hoot and a Noctowl, or maybe you go triple Hoot, depends on how greedy you need to be the next turn. But those are your essential Tera cards. The big basics you'll see: Cornerstone, it's a supplementary Tera that some decks play, some don't. Fezandipiti, this is an essential for standard 2025. When your opponent takes a knockout from damage, can't be damage counters, damage, you can draw 3 cards. Squawkabilly, I hate this card. It's a bailout. Pretty much literally, it's the save your ass card. Once during your turn, on the first turn of the game, you can discard your hand and draw 6 cards. You can only use 1 Squawk per game. Again, you're looking at your hand and going, oh my god, what do I do, what do I do? And you have an item based out, be it Nest Ball or Ultra Ball. This thing can just let you play the card game, so I think it being in 2 prizes is a very balanced effect. Mew EX, this is one of the most versatile cards out there. Go figure, can do anything. So you can, once during your turn, draw until you have 3 cards in hand. Very good ability. It has no retreat cost, even better, so it's a pivot. And lastly, Genome Hacking for 3 colorless energy. Choose one of your opponent's active Pokemon's attacks and use it as this attack. So that doesn't come up as often as you think, but it is still technically in play. So if you have to break a wall, if you have to copy something in a pinch, there is ways to charge it up. It's just a lot slower than a Bellowing Thunder and doesn't come up nearly as often. And of course, Freddy Fazbear himself, Blood Moon Ursaluna EX, 260 hit points on a basic is even bigger. So 240 was big, 260 is bigger. Pokemon's attacks are colorless cheaper for each prize card your opponent has taken. Relevant maths you should note: they take 3, it costs 2. If they take 4, it costs 1. If they take 5, it costs none. Use that as you will. Blood Moon is a very strong effect that you will see quite a bit in decks as a closer. It's just the last 2 prizes you can take because it can hit everything here aside from Cornerstone. Common 1 prize Pokemon you'll see in the deck. We just talked about our Hootoots. There's a 70, there's an 80. Depending on the math with Dragapult, you might want a couple 80s, you might want 1. Fan Rotom, we talked about him. If you have a stadium in play, it can also attack for 1 energy and do 70 damage. So it's pretty useful. This one here, I'm not necessarily sold on, but we're going to talk about it for a split second. Once during your turn, if this Pokemon's in the active on your first turn, you can search your deck, choose a Pokemon, a basic Pokemon, put it in the active, shuffle your deck, and then discard this Pokemon. But you can pretty much go grab anything you want. You can also search it off Rotom, but then the question becomes, what are you putting in the active? What do you really need? Like, can I get it up to the active kind of thing? I see its value, not always a fan. Ditto is a very interesting card to say the least. And then we've got I call them the 1 prize army. This is your Slitherwing. It does 120 to the active for 2, and it burns them. But you also take 90 in response. Not too bad. It'll helps you get some key KOs, which we'll talk about. Raging Bolt. This one I 100% was sleeping on until I picked it up, and now I just love the card. Thunderstorm. This is my favorite attack. I think probably not one of my favorite attacks. This attack does 30 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon for each energy attached to this Pokemon. So 2 in order to declare the attack is 60. Not really good. Maybe hits the Ditto you see on screen. 3 is where it starts to get silly because you get quite a few basics and evolving Pokemon. Very, very fun. Koraidon, this is my baby. This is my include. This is what makes the deck, really feel good. Unrelenting Onslaught. It does 30 damage, and if one of your other ancient Pokemon attacked the previous turn, it actually does 150 more. So 180 2 energy is a very efficient attack, and because it's hitting for weakness, there's quite a few multi-prize Pokemon we can upgrade into, and I love playing Koraidon because I can really slam these 3 in and make your opponent work for it. Those are the 1 prizers. The Raging Bolt variants. So you got Owl or no Owl. The case pre-rotation was that you had your Pokestops and your Radiant Greninjas, and you had all this aggressive dig through the deck. We don't have that now. People are still playing it that way. I see that. I am 100% in favor of the Noctowl engine, because the Noctowl engine allows you to grab the pieces when you need it. Is it a little bit more setup? Do you need a little bit more to get going? Yeah, certainly, but I don't think it's that big of a trade-off because it allows you to enable some funny combos and just really push where, the other one you got a raw draw or you don't see it. Plus, Sada is very difficult to top deck under item lock, whereas Noctowl's like, I'ma go get it. Don't worry, I got you, friend. So it just comes down to a matter of flexibility and consistency. Well, Raging Bolt is baby's first deck. All it does is swing hard and repeat. But I'm telling you, post-rotation, you definitely have valid arguments for the Noctowl engine. All of the layers that it adds makes it so much more fun. I've been enjoying it. It's reminiscent of shady dealing type deck. So this is the broad game plan. So generally you follow these rules. Try to set up at least 1 ancient Pokemon at the start of the game. and discard 1 energy. If you've done that, good. First objective's complete. If you can, going second, obviously, Sada, draw 3 cards, attach a couple energy, set up for the next turn. Sometimes you want to take the attack, sometimes you don't. Maybe you just Sada to something on the bench and go past. Establish a Teal Mask and Teal Dance. This is if you plan on making the attack. If you committed and said, you know what, I see a 2-prizer, I'm going for the attack. You play down your Teal Mask, use Teal Dance, accelerate an extra energy. We're going to take that 210 or 280 KO. Some keynotes that you should keep in mind. Again, I just mentioned it. If you see the donk going second on the first turn of the game, for the love of God, push. You're going to have so many ways to push, and we'll talk about that later. You got your Squawkabilly, you got your Sada, you've got the owls, you thin cards out. Order of operations. If you see a donk, push for the donk. Don't let them play. Try to take the first 2 prizes. So this deck functions so much better if you can take the first 2 prizes. Do not give up the first 2 prizes. So maybe hold off on benching 2 prize liabilities if you can, or you see it's going to get victimized. Take prizes in 2s. This is the most linear game plan that you can follow. 2, 2, 2. That's why people try to say the deck is simple. But I think with all the new challenges in the format, you don't always get to go 2, 2, 2. 2, 2, 2 is the one that we try to stay in if we can, but we can't always help that. So go first in blind matchups. Many decks want to go second because they're going to use Arven, they're going to use Badoo, they're going to whatever. We're evolving our owls. We don't care. So typically what I will do going first is I will try to get look at what's across from me. If they're an evolving deck, they're obviously not going to hurt me. They're going to lock me. So then I will try to grab a Latias EX, maybe set up a couple owls if I can Rotom, and then place down an ancient Pokemon. Because they're going to come in with the Itchy Pollen, they're going to lock you. You're not going to be able to play your items the following turn. We're not going to be able to discard any energy. So if you discarded at least 1 energy the previous turn, if you draw a Sada or you find a Sada, you can still play the game and then bump that little buddy boy. And that's generally it. We're just kind of working our way through. This is all towards the early stages of the game. And for the love of God, I see this all the time. I've been feasting on just matchups in general. Don't overbench. If you don't have to play it the turn that you're playing it, don't play it. I don't usually need Raging Bolt going first, right? So I don't bench them. I don't usually need the Teal Mask going first. If I had a really good hand, I don't squawk and seize because it's 2 prizes and I'm looking at my hand going, okay, yeah, this is the absolute nuts. Don't overbench. Because it's going to come back to haunt you, and you might not have the room to play something later, and we're going to have a lot of Pokemon to pick from. Essentials, really. Just play your essentials starting off, and unless you're pushing for some aggression, hold up, slow it down. How to do well with Raging Bolt. Got a little passionate on that last slide. Apologize, but it is a good deck, and I keep seeing the same mistakes made again and again. Keep the deck building simple. What I mean, reduce single copies of cards, up existing counts, minimize tough prizing. So if you're playing consistency cards that you want to see turn after turn or at the start of every game, regardless of who you're playing, reduce the single copies and up existing counts. I like to do like 4 copies of my search cards and 4 copies of my energy search cards. Just things I know I'm going to see and I'm going to make value of, and they don't do any good sitting in the deck, right? Track your key resources. So in other videos, we've talked about energy, prizes, and key resources. This is no different. So this deck plays anywhere from 11 to 13 energy, give or take, knowing how many grass you have available to you, how many fighting you have available to you, and how many lightning are very, very big. Do you have any key resources like Boss or Sada or any other Gust, like your Ace Spec? Like, do you know where they are? Are they in your prizes? Are they in your deck? How many of your Raging Bolts got stuck in the prizes? Do you have access to Squawkabilly this game? Yes or no? Is Fezandipiti, for example, in your prizes? Is there a 1 prizer that maybe you want to see? Like Rotom, did that get stuck? Or did you prize all 3 Noctowls? Like, you got to figure out what you got. This one's going to get me a little heated. Read the board. Don't lock yourself into rehearsed lines. Your prize map changes to buy an extra turn. Once upon a time, this deck just went 2-2-2. There was enough 2 prize liabilities between like Rotom and Lumineon and so on and so forth. This isn't that anymore. You have to figure out what you're going to be able to get off the first few. Your opponent only gave you a couple 1s. Okay, we might have to get the first 2 1s. Can we keep a 1 prize board state to get the first 2 1s? Don't sit there and go, I have to do these exact things somebody told me or I watched once in a video. You got to look at the board and say, how am I going to get that extra? How am I going to drag out this game long enough so I can go 1-1, 2-2 if I have? Or how do I go 2-2-2 if I could squeeze it, right? And some people will say, the most common thing I hear all the time, well, if I had 1 more turn, I would have won. Okay, well, what did you do to give yourself the extra turn? Oh, you benched 2 prizers just to put them on the board. You didn't need them that turn. Like, they didn't really offer anything. Teal Mask is nice, but there's turns where that extra 1 card doesn't really make a difference. So you could have held off benching it. So then you're staring at a bunch of Hootoots, at a Rotom, and maybe a Slitherwing or something, and your opponent has to take 1 prize. Then you play the Teal Mask the following turn when you're going to play Fezandipiti and you're going to play your Raging Bolt, and you're going to evolve one of the owls, and you're going to really combo off. Like, what was the point of that? Ask yourself, what can you do to give yourself an extra turn to get the prizes you need? How do I give myself extra time so that I can take the game from them? Reeling it back in. Reeling it back in. Fitting point. Have fun with it. It is a game at the end of the day. Learning tends to go better when you're finding ways to embrace it and enjoy it. Constructive self-reflection, whether you win or lose, do you know where things went wrong? Circling back to point 3, do you know where the turning point of the game was? Do you know that thing that you shouldn't have played or shouldn't have benched, or maybe you attached to the wrong thing? Like, can you circle that pinpoint? Because you get so much more from the game if you figure out where the wheels fell off the car rather than just going, oh, well, they had it. Oh, if I had an extra turn. Can't be thinking like that. It puts you in a box and it kind of limits your ability as a player. Look for what you can improve on for the next game. Win, lose, whatever. Like, okay, well, yeah, I won that game, but oh, that was awfully close. Because if they had boss on their turn rather than playing this, like, did they make a mistake? You can almost watch your opponent go, well, okay, so their board is set up. Like, they don't need anything other than a boss's orders. Okay, like, okay, so what could I have done to maybe deny the boss or something, right? Could I have put the Brave Charm on this thing rather than that thing? So on. Experience is your best teacher. I find just getting the repetitions in, asking the questions while you're doing it makes each game a little more. So live may be a trash client, but you can still get yourself to some stuff out of it. So expose yourself to more decisions, more battle testing, but you got to be asking the right questions with every game. If you're just mind-numbingly playing the game and slapping cards because they light up, you're cooked. And if it's not for you, by all means, try something else. Some misconceptions and concerns. I love this deck, surprisingly. The deck is too easy. How do I get better? This deck is not necessarily too easy. The deck has a repeatable strategy, which is perception of being easy. However, with all of the other threats and the layers of the metagame, it teaches key concepts like sequencing, board management, resource management, and prize mapping. I've seen players that I never expected to pick up this deck because of what it can offer. So it does matter the order that you play your cards, because you sometimes have to blindly draw. Board management, like I've been talking to the nines about, is if you put too many things on the board, your opponent gets a very easy prize map. They can just go 2-2-2 before you can. Resource management. We're not going to have an infinite amount of energy to Bellowing Thunder. Anytime you're discarding something, you only have so many ways of getting it back. Your opponent might try to deny you getting them back. Your prizes might try to deny you getting anything. You just have to really figure it out. Okay, how am I going to squeeze the most out of these cards? How am I going to get the most value per card kind of scenario? And of course, prize mapping. Like I've said a million times now, you might have to get a funny prize map where it's 1-1-2-2 or 1-2-1-2. Doesn't matter. You still got to figure out, how am I getting to 6? Whereas before, it was just 2-2-2 and call it a day. So I think this deck definitely has a lot that a new player or a learning player can really benefit from. The deck is too predictable. My God! Doing the same thing over and over is not a bad thing. The deck is still performing over in Japan, and they're 2 sets ahead of us. Experiment, make it your own, try things. What can you plug into a matchup? Check the data. There's Trainer Hill, there's Limitless. I'm sure there's a million videos out there already talking about your weekly meta breakdown or monthly meta breakdowns. Metagames change. Sometimes it gets better for you if you can learn to predict what's going to be good. Other times it'll be worse. Maybe everybody's got Raging Bolt on the brain, so they're going to try to hard counter it. Ride the waves. It's a card game. People will shift back and forth, so it might be more favorable on Monday. It might be less favorable on Tuesday. It's just the nature of the trading card game. And lastly, I'm not having fun. It's not for me. We're going to reel it back. Play what you like. It's okay to not like a deck. People might never just like discarding energy and just slapping big damage and drawing a metric ton of cards. Don't let someone tell you how to enjoy Pokemon. I've been enjoying this. You might not. That's okay. We're 2 different people. There are plenty of other viable decks and, surprisingly, a lot of variants of the same deck for you to pick from. So maybe you like Raging Bolt, but you don't like it with the Owls. Try it without the Owls. If you're playing Dragapult, for example, and there's 3 or 4 different ways to play it. You've got your with Ghosts, with Pidgeot, with Charizard, with Gholdengo, with Zoroark. If you're not liking a certain variant, just mish it up. Find a card you like and just start messing with it. You'll find something you like. All right, moving on. Let's talk about some sequencing. So sequencing is just the order of playing your cards to complete an objective. So how do we do that? We conduct a free deck search. 2 common cards I like to use in this deck for free deck searches are Fan Rotom and Nest Ball. You don't have to discard anything. There's no cost really other than just playing the card and doing the thing, right? If possible. Sometimes you don't have these cards, so you can't necessarily do it. They could be prized, they just not be in the opening hand, whatever. So I go in and then I grab my prize cards. What am I trying to figure out? How many energy, how many boss, how many Sada, how many Raging Bolt, is Squawk, Fez, Mew, Baby Bolt, anything like that? Are those in there? Once I know what's gone, then I can start determining my correct order to play the cards that I have available to me. Don't say, oh, well, I prize this, I'm toast. I prized my Ace Spec many games, never got to use it, and we still pull it out because we're able to make do with what we have. If you only have 3 copies of a card instead of 4, guess what? Time to improvise. You can still win this game. It's not quite cooked. Establish a turn objective. Everybody thinks about the end game. Nobody wants to take the steps to get there. So break it down based on what's in your hand, information from your prizes, and what's sitting on your board. Where would you like to end the individual turn? You break it down. We're going to take it one turn at a time. Be realistic. Can you push for that big 350 KO? It looks kind of greedy. It'll leave me kind of thin. My opponent's going to respond, and then I don't really have much to work with. Okay, so maybe we'll go for something smaller. Or you see a Badulok. Okay, well, if I do go for the KO, then I'm pretty susceptible to a Badulok, and then I just lose. That's a valid concern, too. So, okay, let's slow it down. And maybe let's do a Sada and then attach to something and then play another support Pokemon and pass. That's okay too. Just figure out what you need. Do you need the more Pokemon? Do you need to declare a particular attack? Are we saving up for next turn where we start, really taking prizes? Find a certain card. Sometimes we almost play chicken where we dare them to take the first prize so then we can swing on that 2-prizer. Because generally they need the Charizard or the Dragapult, or they need a Roaring Moon, or they need something that's 2-prizers to deal with us. So as long as they're not dealing with 2 prizes on our side, we can almost bait them to bring it out. Come on. Which one of us is going to break the stalemate? Sometimes the correct play is not attacking. Taking that easy KO. For example, if you see only 1 prize Pokemon, and I'm staring at a bunch of Gimme Ghouls, and I know the Gholdengo's coming, okay, maybe I don't play Teal Mask, I don't play Raging Bolt, I don't play Fez, Squawk, whatever, and I just play my Hoots, my Rotom, and my 1 prize army, and say, all right, I'm not going to give you anything from this, because if you take that 1 prize KO, okay, is your 1 prize going to outvalue what they're about to get? They're going to get draw for turn, they're going to get the Fezandipiti, draw 3 cards, then they're going to get whatever combo piece is there plus their supporter for turn, so you've just helped them get 10 plus cards for 1 prize. Do you think that 1 prize was worth it when they come in and take 2 prizes and now we're behind the 8 ball? No, it really wasn't. So know when a prize is worth taking and when maybe it's just not. Some specific instances, I like to talk about briefly. Setting up. This one, a lot of people I see do botch the setup, which is unfortunate. If you have a Rotom is usually a good check, as we've talked about. Grab a couple Hoots, grab a 1 prize Ancient Pokemon, and then if you need it, that's when you start benching your 2-prizers, your Squawks to draw a new hand, your Mew to draw a few more cards, your Raging Bolt or Teal Mask, if you need them. Start with the easy stuff first, and then work your way to the end, because generally you'll know whether you need to Squawk and Seize before the turn's over. So quick deck searches, grab the basics, thin out, check your prizes, grab 2 Hootoots. I tend to grab at least 2 because 1 is a victim and 1 is usually what I'm going to end up using. 3 if you really think you're going to Squawk. Don't grab a Noctowl if you're going to Squawk and Seize. At least at this point, decide if you're attacking or not. If you're just grabbing Baby Bolt, Slitherwing, and whatnot, maybe you're just going to drop an attachment on one of those and pass. Ancient Pokemon, 1-prizers will do because Sada will be live at that point. And read your hand. If it's really good, you don't have to Squawk. If you do need more, say, okay, are these 2 prizes worth me getting into the game to play? Then do it. Then Squawk and Seize and get going. But that's generally the roadmap. You can use your Nest Balls or Ultra Balls or whatever. It's a general framework, right? Break it down step by step. I'm giving you the thought process as I'm going. Specific instances, again, moving to the mid-game. Another question I'm asking myself is, how does my state look after I've taken 2 prizes? Do I still have some Noctowls left? Do I need to bench any more Tera Pokemon? Typically, I only like to use 1 Teal Mask on the bench unless I am pushing for a big KO, because it's more prizes your opponent can hunt. If we can shift into a 1 prize board state, now it's time to do so. If we have no Noctowls left, or if we have a Hoothoot left and we just leave them, don't use the Noctowl until you have to, so don't bench any more Teal Masks. If we can go Koraidon, Raging Bolt, Slitherwing, Rotom, whatever, just 1-prizers to get a couple prizes to drag out this game a little more, maybe burn a little more of their resources to just allow us to claw back, by all means. Prepare your board state for a backup attacker. So the Iono Unfair Stamp is coming. I'll use Raging Bolt as an example. So say we're going to go for a Bellowing Thunder on a Dragapult. We have to discard 5 energy to do so. There's 6 energy on our board, and they're all spread out all over the place. If you keep at least 1 energy on the active Raging Bolt, it means you're not locked to a particular line of play for the following turn. Or if you know your Raging Bolt is going down this turn, then maybe put it on, maybe leave one of the attachments on a Raging Bolt, or leave it on a Noctowl, because they'll try to strand that Noctowl, Budew, and then try to claw themselves back. Just things like that, because they're going to Iono, they're going to Unfair Stamp. It's really the only measure they have against us. We just swing too hard and too consistently, right? They have to try to slow us down. The ideal trade will always be 2-2-2, but often you need to take 2 one-prize Pokemon to get your 6. So maybe it's a Budew early and then a Dreepy, or maybe it's 2 Dreepies or a Dracloak or something like that. You just got to be willing to improvise. Those first 2 prizes is usually, if they if they roll one over and lay you down a Squawk or lay you down a Fez or a Latias or something, by all means, run that thing over. Take it, take the 2 prizes, because your win percentage shoots right up if you can take the first 2 prizes before they can take their first 2 prizes. And then a more specific one, I think I harped on a few people who, oh, if only I had another turn, or if only I found boss. Okay, so let's take a look. Did they Iono boss away? If you need to shuffle the deck, or you're winning Gust, then you need to shuffle the deck. If they didn't and they just played Unfair Stamp and it's somewheres in the deck, you don't have to start with a search card. But we're going to say they Iono'd us, right? Because that way we'll have a little more to work with. So if you have a Vessel or if you have an S-Ball, typically don't want to burn the Ultra Ball in this process because there's other cards. If you can deem some cards expendable, then the Ultra Ball is also included here. So shuffle the deck, grab some cards, thin them out. And we're going to use Mew to restart. If they didn't Iono you and it's just a stamp, then typically you go Mew first, because you just want to push out of it a little harder. Then they've taken a KO, clearly. We're going to Fezandipiti, so now we're up to about 5 or 6 cards, right? And then we've got our Teal Masks. Start pushing with the Teal Masks, okay? So 1 or 2 Teal dances. It's a game-closing boss. Get a little aggressive, start putting stuff on the board, and really start pushing. So Teal Mask twice, draw 2 more cards. Okay, did I need a Gust, or did I need Acceleration plus a Gust? If you needed just a Gust, boss's orders gets the job done, game over. That's where I was talking about watch your attachments left over at the end of your attack. So if you left one on a Raging Bolt EX, you don't need Professor Sada this turn. But if you do need Professor Sada, then we got to keep going. So then, if you have any Hootoots left, again, you don't always evolve the Hootoots right away. Noctowl makes this significantly easier, and we just grew into a Noctowl with all those sequencing to get either the Counter Catcher, the Boss, the Prime Catcher, you know what I mean. We can't play Sada and Boss in the same time, but it's just to stand in for a Gust card, right? To close out the game. Save the Owls. Noctowls once per evolution. Maximize their use. Don't play them just for the sake of playing them. If they have other actions that can get you to where you need to be without them, and then use them as a last pinch, by all means. Sometimes they do have to start the combo, and that just is what it is. Some quick maths. So I was talking about it earlier. We're going to circle back. So take a keynote. So Bellowing Thunder works in 70s, right? 70, 140, 210, 280, 350, 420, depending on what you need. These are the most common ones you'll see. Single energy discard, Ralts, Budew, Dreepy, Duskull, Hoothoot. Usually we try to attack with our 1 prizers, but in instances you can't, then you got to take these boys. There's quite a few picks for 120 to 210. Slitherwing, Raging Bolt, Koraidon, they all attack between 120 and 180. Teal Mask is generally 120 for 3 attachments, not counting whatever they have on the board. So it comes up from time to time, mostly for grass weak Pokemon. And then Raging Bolt. If you have to discard 2 energy, it's 140. If you have to discard 3, it's 210. Notice there's quite a few 2 prize Pokemon in here that you can feast on early. I usually will chase the support before I chase the main, unless it's Dragapult, because that guy needs to go down, right? Because if I destabilize their support when it's time to just close out, they can't really match the closeout. And of course, Blood Moon and Raging Bolt. If you need to go 210 and above, these are your guys. Blood Moon's a solid 240, and Raging Bolt is 240, or 280, 350, 420, right? Bigger Pokemon will come. Raging Bolt does not care. Some additional thoughts, not including your weakness. So none of these are including the damage buffs. I try to think as a Bolt main is you're not hitting for weakness, so I don't include it. But there's instances where Koraidon hits for weakness, Slitherwing hits for weakness, Teal Mask hits for weakness. Use those when they come up. Future-proof your extra attachments. I think I've said this now twice. If you have an extra attachment or turn 2 from a Bellowing Thunder, try to keep it on something that'll either help you from getting locked, i.e. if there's an attachment on a Noctowl, probably leave it. Or if there's an extra attachment you can leave on a Raging Bolt or a Koraidon or something that'll guarantee you're going to have an attack next turn, or almost guarantee. Do that. Don't just leave it on a Teal Mask. Teal Mask is usually pretty useless. But yeah, just try try to predict what they're going to do in the next one, so you leave an attachment there. It does put a red flag on that Pokemon, but that's fine. Raging Bolt can hit all of these numbers. So in a pinch, bolts can just go boom, which is all what people know with the deck. People who've never played the deck, they just go bolts go boom. 1 energy on a bolt means it's live in a pinch and you're not locked to Sada. Things to watch for. This is the enemy's hater list. Just things you should be familiar with. Raging Bolt's known because of its staying power. Most players know their plan for you and have cards just for you. Looking at Badoo, pain in the ass. Itchy Pollen, during your opponent's next turn, they can't play any item cards. Okay, annoying. The Dusclops, Dusknoir, while they feel just for you, they're just very broken cards. They knock themselves out and put either 5 or 13 damage counters on something. So with Dragapult, they're trying to set up that 4 or 5 prize turn. Some instances, I will chase it. If they have a lone Dusclops or Dusknoir, I'll kill that. But if they have 2, I kind of try to deal with the Dragapults to not give them anything to work with. If they've got 2 Pults and 2 Skulls, you're in for a really, really bad time. And then Lily's Clefairy enters the room. She is the conditional, adds weakness to your dragon Pokemon, because it makes all Pokemon weak to Psychic if she's in play, all dragon Pokemon. That one makes Gardevoir a very tricky matchup. That also makes Clefairy a tricky matchup. It's kind of like a very cheeky include they can have just for you. So that's the Clefairy there. Some more things you should probably be aware of. Klefki, I mentioned item and ability lock, so we talked about Badoo. This is the item, the ability lock. So as long as it's in the active, your basic Pokemon have no abilities. So, oh snap, there goes Rotom, Teal Mask, Fezandipiti, Mew, Squawk. They shut down pretty much everything, so you're locked down to Sada and Earthen Vessels. You can break it. It's just going to take a bit of effort to get through, so it can definitely derail your setup. We plan for that, though. Iono, Unfair Stamp, Disruption. These are ways they're going to try to tear your hand apart after a KO. If you plan your board ahead of time before that KO, you can usually mitigate this, but sometimes the stamp sticks. Very rarely, though. And Terapagos. Why Terapagos? It's a basic Pokemon. Crown Opal, I'm seeing more and more play. During your opponent's next turn, prevent all damage done to this by basic non-colorless Pokemon. Oh boy. So I think the only thing that doesn't get through this is a Blood Moon or a Noctowl. And both of those are not always the best options, right? Because Terapagos early is a tough out, right? You got to use a counter catcher, or you got to use prime catcher, and then you got to use a boss just to get rid of it. So it's kind of a pain in the behind. Now let's talk about the donk. Nobody likes getting donk, so I figured we'll break the elephant in the room. So how does this work? They try to take you out before you get to play. So this is your Hootoots and your Rotom. So if you put up the lone one thinking, hey, they can't knock it out, blah, 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 it's first turn of the game, I'm telling you, you really shouldn't. Your ideal Pokemon to start with this deck are usually 1 prize ancient Pokemon or a 2 prize Pokemon, because you don't know what they're going to see, and they're going first. So if they're choosing to go first in this format, it's usually Raging Bolt, or I find it's a donk deck. So Brute Bonnet is going to set the poison with the ancient booster capsule attached. Pecharunt, it says between turns, you're going to put 5 extra counters on, and then Perilous Jungle puts 2 more. So they're going to get a poison 80 damage on you at the end of the turn. And it does not trigger Fez, and it's a free prize that they're trying to get before you even got the chance to play. It will not trigger Fezandipiti, because Fezandipiti triggers from damage on an attack, not an effect or a status condition. You are looking for the booster capsule, which is why I love this card so much. It removes poison, prevents you from being poisoned, and it gives you extra health. The secret box Ace Spec, if you see them start with that, generally, that is your sign, okay, this is a poison variant. Because they'll be grabbing their jungle and their booster capsule, and then whether it's Carmine or something else, usually the secret box is the dead giveaway that this is a poison try to donk you deck. You see it with Archaludon, I've seen a few with Zoroark. I'm sure there's like 3 or 4 more variants running around that I'm forgetting. Oh, Roaring Moon plays it too, not that anybody's playing that. But the donk is annoying, just prepare yourself. The Slitherwing, the Koraidons, the Raging Bolt Baby, are all good. If worst case, just bench an EX in the active, because they can't really attack you, they just poison it. When to Squawk. Let's talk about this annoying little bird. So we know what it does. If you open a bad hand, it's a no-brainer. Squawk and seize, and just so you can play. 2 prizes is definitely worth giving up if you get to play the game. If you don't get to play the game, what was the point? Digging a little deeper to finish the setup. Okay, can I take 2 prizes before them? And I'm like a couple pieces away. Maybe I have everything I need but the Sada, or maybe I have everything I need but the Prime Catcher. Okay, Squawkabilly can help you dig. Push for the donk, the first 2 prizes. If you can have an easy game, go to lunch or go to break or whatever, or wait for the next round, by all means, take the first 2 prizes. vastly improves your game plan. When to hold. Your opening hand is really good. Do you have a couple Noctowls? Do you have a Prime Catcher? Do you have a Sada? And you just had to go first? Okay, hold it. Squawk's not going to see you play this game. If its value does not equal 2 prizes, you look at your hand, you look at your board, and say, okay, does this give me enough to warrant the 2 prize victim it's going to become? Many times it's a yes, but there are instances where it's a no. You have to know when to read your hand and your board and your win condition. The power of Squawk is it bails you out in a pinch. In many instances, just giving up the 2 prizes to get into a game is better than the downside. You got to know when it's usable and when to just accept it's going to be an Earthen Vessel discard. All right, utilizing the Owls. Figured I would talk more about the Owls because I love these freaking cards. They start combos. We've talked about them enough. You don't have to use them all turn 2. If you only need 1 or 2 cards to really often rolling, use the 1. Because if you go, there's 2 Owls on the bench and you evolve 1, then you grab Sada and you grab, let's say, Prime Catcher. Okay, I have everything I need. I don't have to evolve the second one. The second one's sitting for later. But let's say I need to grab a couple Nest Balls. I need to grab a Sada, and then I need to grab the Prime Catcher. Okay, so I had to use both Owls to set up. But by using the Owls, did I take 2 prizes? Was it a good 2 prizes? Yes, then they're worth using. Find the missing piece. Everything in the deck is, by some extension, searchable by Noctowl. Pokemon are searchable by either Ultra Ball or Nest Ball. Cool. Energies are all searchable by Vessel. Supporter cards are no-brainers. The stadiums also you can grab. There's nothing in this deck that Noctowl can't find in some way. Avoiding a KO. Sometimes Dragapult players especially will try to put like 4 or 5. Maybe they Dusclops you, or they put a Hawlucha down, or they Badoo you. So if they Badoo a 70 hit point Hoothoot, then all of a sudden it's in range for a Phantom Dive, I will be evolving the one that they hit the Badoo lock on. That's not happening. No way. We'll deny a KO for you. And then this is my old time back in the day. One of my favorite types of decks to play was the Shady Dealings, because the effect on Noctowl was a little less conditional, and it was on an Inteleon, a stage 2, that just let you grab any 2 trainer cards. Drizzile grabbed you 1, Inteleon grabbed you 2. Those decks were so much fun because you could sneak in so many cheeky little cards that nobody saw, or cards that you normally couldn't play because there was no effing way you were going to find them. Noctowl is just, oh, it's just a ton of fun. The Noctowl engine gives you more control and decision making, allowing you to plan your strategies more effectively. And if you have an answer that's going to deal with a deck and you normally can't get to it, Noctowl can be your bailout to find an otherwise inconsistent strategy option. I've seen people run 101 lines of stage 2s and they find the rare candy and the stage 2 with Noctowl. And that really just opens up the door for, things you normally couldn't see possible. Using the 1 prize Pokemon can disrupt a prize trade and force them to gust every turn. So whether it's mid, whether it's late, if they're in the active and they want to hit a 2 prize, they have to go burn a resource to get it. Sometimes they have to dump resources with Professor's Research or Squawk or whatever, and then they're already on a tighter clock. Just putting these up active makes them have an extra out. Present a 1 prize board state earlier. I think I mentioned this, where you take an ancient Pokemon, the Fan Rotom, and a couple Hoots. That's a 1 prize. Even if they take first KO, we're still in a favored position because they've only taken 1 prize, not 2. So having enough of these in the deck means you can present that more often. And in late, sometimes I use Koraidon to take 2 prizes off of something, or I'll use Thunderburst Storm to take a closeout KO on one of those damn ghosts, or a Dreepy, or something that never got to evolve. It can buy you an extra turn to close out or to claw back. Again, we're going to hit the nail on the head every time. Some common targets, because people are always wondering. Rotom, usually very good to get Badoo. Any of these can get Badoo. Raging Bolt, my favorite one, is because we're going first, you attach for turn, pass. Then we'll accelerate to it and attach, and then all of a sudden we can knock out the Dragapult, Dracloak, or we can knock out the Dusclops, or anything that TM evoed. So that's always a nice target to hit. Pikachu EX. Slitherwing falls in and out of my list depending on how often I expect to see Terabox. Terabox is still a very popular deck for God knows why. I'm still waiting for someone to give me a compelling argument to why I should play a deck that just seems to fry the brain and not win as much as it's frying your brain. Burning Turbulence does 120, so it hits it for weakness, 240. However, Pikachu's Resolute Heart ability kicks in and gives it 10 extra hit points, but the secondary effect burns it. So in between turns, it takes 20 damage, and it doesn't trigger Fez, and it does get the KO. So then Pikachu's out. Also, Slitherwing gets KO on Blood Moon, but, that's another one to keep in mind. And lastly, the reason why I slotted in Koraidon, my other main deck this format, and I'm giving you the sauce, Koraidon if another ancient Pokemon attacked the previous turn, whether it's a Bellowing Thunder or whatever, you can do 180 damage flat, or you can do 360 damage hitting for weakness. So that covers your Terapagos that has the Bouffant and the Brave Charm in play. So they get as big as 340 hit points or 330 hit points on a basic Pokemon. Koraidon doesn't care, you're still going through it. So then what I usually like to do is I will Bellowing Thunder off maybe Clefairy or a Terapagos or a Fez or something. They'll promote the Terapagos, they'll get the response. Then I promote the Koraidon and all my little one prize army, and then I'll use Counter Catcher. If it wasn't the Terapagos that came up, Koraidon will take the knockout. Then I'm staring at a one prize board state. They have to take a one prizer rather than a two, which gives me the instance to claw back, and then I drop down the Raging Bolt to close out the game. It's a very good card. I don't see it in enough lists, but I do see enough value to get it, and it does still hit for 180, so 180 is not a bad thing to be hitting for 2 energy. Mock board states. So we went over to Limitless TCG, and we did a couple shuffle hands. In case you're wondering what did I do, I have a final 60 a little further in the video. I imported the deck in here, and I just press new game. It generates you 7 cards, and we're just going to build off it. We're going to give you 2 instances, one where you have to go first with this hand, and one where you have to go second with this hand. And I see a lot of people play it incorrectly, and I'm going to give you my thought process and my breakdown. So going first is a blind one. We don't know what your opponent's playing yet, right? No risk of donk because we're going first. That's the first assessment you make when you're going first. So it's a little more freely to start an owl in the active. It's not necessarily like home run free, but the owl is more safe to start. It also gives us a deck search. We can play out this entire hand if we really want. The owls are going to the board. The Teal Mask is going to the board. The Area 0 is going to the board. So what am I discarding, you ask? I'm going to Earthen Vessel, I'm going to discard the Crispin, and then I'm going to go into the deck, and I'm going to do a prize check. I'm going to do a check, I'm going to check a couple energy, and usually I'm going to find a Lightning and a Fighting, and I'm going to put them in the discard pile. Or a Lightning and a Grass, and put them in the discard pile. And then I'm going to Squawk and Seize, and keep going. Exactly what I said I was going to do, I did. So I benched everything in my hand, I Earthen Vesseled, grabbed the 2 cards, and this is where I ended my turn before I Squawk and Seize. Why did I not show the Squawk and Seize? Because it'll spit out different cards every time. It'll just show out 6 different cards. Every game will be different, so there was no point in showing you. But I played out my hand, the best of my abilities, since I played all my cards, and I'm free to Squawk and Seize to dig a little deeper and really just set up my board. If they bump the Area 0 with Squawk on the bench, I got my use. I don't care. That's what it's here for. And I have another one or another 2 sitting in the deck. If you're still worried about them coming up with the Petra and Donk turn 1, they're probably going to Squawk for the combo anyway. But if they're not, you could always have promoted Teal Mask. Both would be correct here. Going second, same hand, run it back. What do we know this time? Owl is not safe because we don't know what they're playing. The hand includes a deck search, of course, so we can still do our safe prize check. And this hand looks like absolute dog water. Going second, this hand is absolute dog water. So we're going to need to Squawk. We need to Squawk. It's going to be a horrible lead. So, slightly different. Turns out we were playing the Petra deck. And we promoted the Teal Mask, and if we had promoted the Hootoots, or just the Hoothoot, we would have been tonked. But Teal Mask takes 80 damage like a champ, survives the turn, then they pass it over to me. Good job. You denied them a cheap prize. The owls are safe on my bench to use for later, and I can play out my hand and go off that. I can decide whether knocking out the Petra with a Rotom is going to be the play, or if I want to be doing something else. I get to play the game now, and that's the real win. You can do this countless times. You see the new game option in the button there. If you really need help, by all means, reach out to me on Twitter, reach out in the comments, and ask how I went about this. You can practice shuffling out your hand and seeing what kind of hands you get to start and trying to play them to the best of your ability. I can do a video on that too. And we just kind of see the mock scenarios. And it's just easier to get the feel of, okay, once you know how to set up and get into a game, then the rest of it is not too bad. And then everything else just comes with practice. All right, now we are going to do Hold Your Hand Getting Started. So this is getting started on how we build the deck from scratch. So how many copies do we need? So this is a little lengthy. If you want to skip ahead to the matchup guides, by all means. I'm going to show you step by step how I built this deck. How many copies do we need? Raging Bolt and Ogerpon are both the faces of our deck. Do we need 4? In many instances, people just play 4 and go for it. I'm going to argue with the no, because we're going to have so many search outs and we're going to have so many ways to find these cards. So we're going to cut it back and we're going to go with 3-3. If you couldn't find them as easily, you play 4. Who gives a hoot? So Hootoots, 70s, 80s, or how are we going to make the decision on those? Do we want to just go all 70s, maybe 180, all 80s? The choice is yours. How many Noctowls do you want? Do you want 1 or 2 Rotoms? Do you want more than that? Generally, 2 to 4 copies of an owl, like a 2-2 line or a 3-3 line is pretty much the norm. I've, in some instances, seen a 4-4 line of Noctowl, but we are going to save those spots elsewhere. 1 to 2 Rotom is also common because prizing issues, whatever. If you lose them, there's no Hisuian Heavy Ball. I went with a 3-3 line, and with ample play testing, I have put in 1 copy of the 80 Hoothoot. Many times it just falls back into a 70, but I do like 3-3 because if I prize one of them, then I still have 2 uses of the Hoothoot. That's my rationale. So we're up to 13 cards. Choosing my Ace Spec. Unfair Stamp, I think we've talked about it to oblivion. So if your opponent took a knockout in the previous turn, each player shuffles their hand into their deck, then you draw 5, they draw 2. We're not really about the disruption per se. It is a good Ace Spec, but maybe not for this deck. And yeah, we just maybe don't want to see that. We want a little more aggression. So Max Belt does 50 more damage to opponent's Pokemon EX. Bellowing Thunder is kind of like our instant cheat code, so this loses a lot of value unless you're trying to weave it in with your one prizers, which I'd argue you're probably not utilizing your Ace Spec most correctly. Legacy Energy, this one reduces the number of prizes cards taken from this Pokemon if it was knocked out from damage by an attack. I do like it in some instances. It's very hard to find because this is probably one of the only cards in the deck that Noctowl can't find. So that kind of disqualified it for me. Secret Box, I've seen valid arguments for Raging Bolt playing Secret Box because you just discard 3 cards and then you grab an item, a supporter, a stadium, and a tool card. So you can find the value. Again, it's not as aggressive, it's more setup. If we had a little bit more of a combo going that we couldn't find with the Owls, I would say yes. But the Owls really do enable a lot, so it's not as valuable. Hero's Cape, for example, gives you an extra 100 hit points, but it's more defense. Raging Bolt doesn't want to play a lot of defense. We just play prize manipulation defense, right? So Hero's Cape doesn't always get you the value. Obviously, the de facto Ace Spec for Raging Bolt in most cases is the Prime Catcher. Switch in one of your opponent's bench Pokemon to the active. If you do, switch your active with one of your bench. Boss's orders on a turn that we played Professor Sada. We grab the Sada, we grab the Prime Catcher off a Noctowl, and we pretty much have the golden combo because we're accelerating 2 energy and we're declaring a knockout. So this is probably your best choice every time. It's a 1 per deck. Ace Specs are the power cards, and they serve a specific role. You're looking to swing momentum. I think taking 2 prizes swings momentum when you play the card, because that's pretty much what Prime Catcher's leading. You don't use it for any other instance. All right, so we're up to 14 cards. The core essentials. These are my search, these are my support. These are things I know that I'm gonna see 4 copies each. Sada, we already said, is our best supporter. Earthen Vessel at 4 counts means we can grab the energy when we need them, and we don't always have to burn a Noctowl to find the Earthen Vessel. That's why I'm playing 4. Ultra Ball grabs everything in the deck. Nest Ball grabs all of our basics. Nest Ball is a guaranteed 4 of. Ultra Ball, you can give me some arguments for 2, maybe 3, but we're starting with 4. Consistency, just getting to play the game is what I really value when I'm building a deck. So now we're up to about 30 cards, right? We've got our consistency, we've got our Owl Engine, we've got our 2 key attackers, and now we have to keep moving on. How are we going to fill out the remaining part of this deck? Energy cards. So this one, argue with me in the comments below on how you do it, but this is how I do it. So we have our 3 types of energy. Now assess what the primary attacker or use of each energy will be. So Raging Bolt will be our fighting and lightning. Teal Mask will be our grass. If we were to attack with these main attackers, right? At minimum, what do we need for these guys? I'm glad you asked. Teal Mask needs 3 to declare an attack. At least 3. So 3 at minimum will be in this deck. Raging Bolt just needs the 1. So we're looking at least 5 energy in this deck. This is what I've been doing since 2017. Double your at minimum energy counts and add 1. Is it a hydrocarbon rule? Yes. Have I spent too much time in chem labs? Also yes. Starting framework though. This is where I start my deck building. If you need more, we'll add more later. If you need less, we'll take some out. Revisit it towards the end of the deck. So we're adding about 13 energy here. Lucky number 13. Now we're up to 43 cards. Deck's coming along nicely. We've got the core essentials. Now it's time to add in some support Pokemon, whether they're attackers or whether they're effect users. We'll start with the effect users. Squawk, Fez, Latias. These are all pretty much tried and true staples. They're only going to be used for their abilities. They're not going to attack or very unlikely to attack. So we're going to include those 3 for certain. Very little room for negotiation on these 3. And then this is the 1 prize army. This is where I kind of show my, do I say preference? This is where I impose my willingness to play the deck. So by having backup attackers, they provide options for all kinds of scenarios. You can make the case for 2 out of 3. You can make the case for all 3. I'm going to make the case for all 3 because I like presenting 1 prize board states. Do some see less value in other matchups? Yeah, but they do have their instances where they're valuable, and that's why they warrant play in this deck. So I'm rocking the 3 ancient Pokemon. They're SADA targets, they're 1-prize Pokemon that can help maintain a 1-prize board state, and they have utility attacks depending on the matchup that I can use with Counter Catcher and Prime Catcher. So now we're up to 49 cards. We have our 1-prize and our support Pokemon. We have 11 cards to fill out this deck. Stadiums. You typically want to have 1 or 2 stadiums in this format, just for the sake of, stadium war. You don't want to see that Pokemon League headquarters, which makes all your attacks cost 1 more, so you should have at least 2. Area 0 and Underdepths, we talked about quite a bit. Jamming Tower. This is also another stadium you kind of want to be bumping. Pokemon Tools have no effect. And then Levincia and Cycling Road are 2 notable ones I could mention that maybe sort of sometimes in a 1% likelihood fit in this deck. Cycling Road is just another means of discarding an energy if you're terrified of item lock. And Levincia it allows you to grab 2 lightning energy back from the discard pile, so you can grab energy back under lock. Again, the format may warp towards those more so, but they are worth mentioning today. At least 2 Area 0. By all means, it just allows you to expand your bench and utilize the basic support Pokemon in the same turn. So if I need a Squawk, and I need a Latias, and I need, let's say, a couple Teal masks, and then I need to bench a couple, Hootoots, that's about 6 or 7 Pokemon there. Plus, I haven't even benched my Raging Bolts or my ancient Pokemon. So it allows me to just overextend, and if they bump it, then I can discard the liabilities. I can discard the things I don't need. Area 0 just lets me play it all in one go and makes a hard decision a little easier. So now we're going to run with a bare minimum counts so far. The other ones would be like tech includes and like personal preference choices. So we're at 51 cards. Second chances. What I mean is your recovery. So these are your free, pretty much you play them, you get something back. There's no cost to do so. So energy retrieval gets you 2 energy from your discard pile back in your hand. Night Stretcher gets either a Pokemon or an energy from your discard pile. It's a very, very powerful card. It's just a free go get it, so nothing stays dead. These cards, I typically would say at least one of them because of how powerful they are. And then I'm just going to briefly talk about them. These are some lesser common played cards in Raging Bolt. Superior Energy Retrieval requires a cost of 2 discard, and then you get 4 energy instead of the 2. There's instances where that's really, really good, and others where you're like, I don't have enough cards in hand to play this. And then Super Rod. So it shuffles up to any 3 Pokemon or basic energy into the deck. That's a very powerful effect that's kind of balanced by the fact it has to go into the deck. It's not as readily accessible, so you either need an S-Ball or an Ultra Ball or a way to draw it. At minimum, you should have at least 1 Pokemon recovery and 1 form of energy. We're discarding stuff, we're getting knocked out, we're taking knockouts. You should always have at least 1 energy and 1 Pokemon. Discard costs and return costs offset the powerful effects. If you want to use them, by all means, try them out, let them go. I'm going to jump ahead and show you where I went with it. I opted for 2-2. 1-1. If you prize it, you might be in a bit of trouble, so we're going to start with 2-2. And again, just like the energy, we'll revisit it in the end. Finishing the list. So as you saw, we had about 5 cards remaining. What are we doing with the rest of this list? We have to fill out the 5 cards. Here are some questions I like to ask. What matchup am I going to see the most? Gee golly, I think it's going to be Dragapult for the foreseeable future. Am I playing enough copies of cards? I like to think so because I always start with the max counts and then work my way down and see what I can afford to chop down. Do I have enough Gust to close out a game? Absolutely not right now. I have 1. I have 1 option for Gust, so I'm going to have to look into that. If they lock my main support, say if they item lock or ability lock me, can I still get into this game? As it stands, if they item lock me, I'm cooked. If they ability lock me, I'm still like 30-40% likely to get into this game. There's not enough, and I'm going to have to shore that up. And lastly, can I include something that helps versus a bad matchup, but also adds value elsewhere? This is a question that I ask a lot, but I don't always have to answer. It's just something I consider, because if it has utility elsewhere, maybe fixes a bad matchup, but it's not entirely dead versus the rest of the field, then it's a worth include. But if you play a card that only beats 1 matchup, chances are you were better off trying to find something that helps smooth over, add points to the whole field, and you just accept that 1 matchup was bad. The last few deck spots should focus on finishing off the list before adding your spicy cards. So, techs and considerations. Have I played with all of these at one point or another? You better believe it. That's why this video took weeks, is I needed to try out a lot of these cards. So Boss's Orders, it's a Gust. It allows you to get something. Counter Catcher, it's a comeback card. I was a little later onto adapting this card, but it is very good. Iron Bundle, just pushing out Badoos or pushing out Pokemon they're trying to hide on the bench. It's Nest Ball searchable, so I thought it was very, very good. Didn't end up really holding its value. Disruption cards. So Judge, each player shuffles and then draws 4. Iono puts cards at the bottom of the deck, and then you draw based on your prices, they draw based on theirs. Diminishing values, and sometimes you don't want to give them the full 6 cards, so again, I was lukewarm on that one. Genesect, why is it under Disruption? if you attach a tool to it, your opponent, nobody can play an Ace Spec. So if that can be really annoying, you grab it with a Noctowl, Nest Ball, and a tool, and then all of a sudden they can't play the unfair stamp to you. I'm still considering that one because I'm getting sick and tired of seeing all the unfair stamps. Some other conditional supporters. So Crispin, search your deck for 2 different energy, 1 to your hand, 1 to your board. Briar, if your opponent has exactly 2 prizes remaining and your Tera Pokemon takes a knockout, take an extra prize. We do play Teal Mask, so it is seeing play here and there. It's not like a lock card, so it's interesting. Kuro, Henry Brand, Tord, all the top players always talk about it, is board permanence, so people lock themselves into how many prizes or how they're going to take their prizes. And if your opponent's staring down this thing, goes, you know what, that'll be there in a couple turns. Maybe it's a Squawk, maybe it's a Fez. You being able to scoop those 2 prize liabilities off and just clear up your board is also very good. Getting a second use out of a Noctowl or denying a retreat lock deck is also very good. But there's quite a few people talking about the importance of managing your board, which is what I've been really trying to beat home in today's very lengthy video. And then we have your support Pokemon. I'm not going to go in depth with all of them. Have I played with each and every one of them? Yes, I actually put Sandy Shocks and Great Tusk in a previous video. Cornerstone was actually in the deck prior to some last minute changes about maybe a week and a half ago, and then it just kind of fell off. Mew was kind of an answer to the unfair stamp problem. Blood Moon Ursaluna is starting to see play, so it was worth mentioning. And Ditto, you're either for it or you're not. Ancient Booster Capsule and Brave Charm. Decks are very specific with their math. I really love these cards for just kind of taking you out of range. Dragapult likes to set up math for later, and if you slap these down after they've put their math down, then it really makes them rethink, and they don't get a chance to reuse that Dusknoir or Dusclops. They now have to improvise and figure out how they're going to get there. And then more item-based support, whether it's search with the Pokegears to get your hands on the Sadas, or the Pal Pads to get additional uses out of Sadas. They are here. I've played with both. Both were good. I found that they had to eat into other counts, though, in order to stay in the deck. There was a lot to pick from here. So you can't go wrong. Just try it, see what you do and you don't like. But what I'll be testing when this video wraps up, because I think it's going to really give the deck staying power, Raging Bolt's win percentages fall off a cliff when your opponent makes you take the first 1 prize rather than the first 2. So my current testing, when this video ends, this is where I'm going, will be with Briar. So you can only play this if your opponent has exactly 2 prizes remaining. Your opponent can play it around it, certainly, but there's instances where they can't. When you take a KO with an active Tera Pokemon, take an extra prize. So the most common one people are thinking of is Teal Mask Ogerpon. It's not a very efficient KO. It can maybe take an extra prize on a 1 prize Pokemon, or they have to be weak to grass. That is getting less and less value. What I've been working on, Terapagos EX. It does more damage based on the number of bench Pokemon you have in play. So we already play Area 0, so we can hit up to 240 damage. 240 would get you a Fezandipiti. It would get you a Cornerstone. It would get you a bunch of different Pokemon. So if you're taking 3 prizes off there too, we can actually go 1, 2, 3. And how am I pulling this combo off? Well, we play Briar, so we can't play Crispin. We can't play any other supporter for acceleration. So we're going to use the Noctowl to grab maybe a counter catcher or a prime catcher, an energy switch, and then attach for turn. Or maybe we already had an energy on it, so we didn't need the energy switch. And it allows you to win in 3 attacks. So you don't care if they force you to take 1 prize. So you can go 1, take the first prize, 2, take the next 2 prizes, and then your opponent is going to follow the 2-2-2 map, but then you just have to find your combo pieces late with your Hoots, and if you're going fast enough and they don't slow you down, then the game is over, because they either have to try to match you or it's over. So you go 1, 2, 3, GG's, this is the game, this is the game plan. I really do like how it's been faring, but I'm not comfortable enough with sharing it because I'm still tinkering the other cards around it. Do I need the E-Switch? Do I want the E-Switch? Do I want 1 Briar? Do I want Palpad? How do I want to get at this? Is there easier ways to get to the Briar? Is Terapagos the ideal, Tera Pokemon to do this? I will find out, and I'm sure you'll see it in a later video. But here's the finalized 60. So I did make some concessions. I cut an Ultra Ball to squeeze in the Mew EX. I got sick and tired of getting unfair stamped and absolutely destroyed. I found in most games I was only using 1, 2 Ultra Ball at max, so 3 is just kind of an add 1 for good measure. Cutting a Grass Energy for another retrieval, and a retrieval for 2 Crispin. So we have the 4 Sada. Sometimes they item lock us and we can't really discard to fuel the Sada. So Crispin and Sada, it feels like 6 energy acceleration cards. So we get more than enough. I did take some of my remaining spots to put some tools in for damage mods because I expect to see a lot of Dragapult and it skews their matchups. So Fezandipiti, Mew, Squawk, Latias, even Teal Masks get a little chonkier and they're a little harder to deal with because they usually just go Hawlucha, Counter Catcher, and then knock out one of your 200 hit point Pokemon. But by putting a Brave Charm on it, it means they have to also invest the Dusclops into it, which makes it a little harder late. It also means Raging Bolt is more likely to survive because he's a 300 hit point Pokemon rather than 240, and Dusk Noir is what they need to get him in one attack. I opted for Boss because we do need a couple more Gust options. I needed Boss and I need a Counter Catcher. I want 2 to 3 Gusting options in this deck at minimum. And then again, am I biased by the Henry Brand video the other day? Absolutely. I thought it was very well said. And I was seeing it in Japanese lists, and I was trying to justify its place in the deck, so it would pop in and out of the deck. And then I'm like, well, you know what? I'm just going to play 2 Boss. And so I was just going super aggressive. But then as I was leaning more and more into my 1 prize board states, I found myself going, you know what? How do I get that last 2 prizer off the board and make them go through a Koraidon and a Slitherwing before I put it down? Because usually that was more than enough to close out, right? If they had 2 prizes remaining and I knew Koraidon can get the knockout, by Turo lifting off the Teal Mask or lifting off the Fez means that I can attack with Koraidon, take 2 prizes, and then one of those unevolved Pokemon, or maybe I left the Badoo in play, I can then use Baby Bolt to snipe and close out the game. So I could get 3 prizes before they could get 2. So it was another means of comeback, which was very, very nice. Moving on again, we have been talking for a really long time. Here's a matchup guide. Basically, good feels like it's 50% or better. Even is about 45 to 50%. So I find it hit and miss. Maybe they set up a little better, or you set up a little better, and then it goes your way or their way. But I do find myself breaking even when I play these decks. And then these are bad decks, so anything below 45%. Gardevoir usually smokes my ass. It's very difficult to deal with. Weirdly enough, Dragapult without the ghosts has been giving me fits. It's because I can't duck the Blood Moon, and so I usually try to Brave Charm to avoid other KOs, and then the Blood Moon just sneaks in, and the Iono sticks, or they have more Badoo. They just have more space to do things, right? I've also seen a couple Briar Dragapults, which is just really gross. Please don't put that back. Or a 1/1 Noctowl line in Dragapult, which is also kind of scary. And then Terabox. Terabox just has a lot of answers, and you can beat it, but it feels like a 70-30 kind of matchup where okay, I have to initiate the 2 prizes. If they initiate the 2 prizes, then I don't really have a way of coming back. A lot of the decks that feel bad would feel better with the Briar combo, hence why I'm testing it, right? But it's not confident enough to leave the testing table yet. So it's been a very good deck so far. It's probably about tier 1. It's not S tier, it's not B tier. It's a tier 1 deck. Raging Bolt is a tier 1 deck, and you have a pretty good matchup spread. And if you're comfortable running your 1 prize board states, then a lot of these decks feel really, really free. Now, kicking off our matchup guides. So we're going to go over some bullet points and things you should be aware of when you're playing the decks. So regardless of what variant of Archaludon it is, the deck's very flexible. It just hits 220 turn and turn. It just hits 220 turn after turn. Go first, because they want to evolve, so we're not going to give them that. Don't lead an owl, because Petra, and I'll give them a free prize. 1 prize board states early. Again, we're going to talk about it. This is one of those key matchups where you don't want to be giving up 2 prizes before them. Save your Gust for 2 prize KOs. You might have to go 1-1-2-2 in this matchup. That's fine. You can do that. Attacks should be KOs. Archaludon is commonly known for having Turos in the deck to be able to scoop up damage if you didn't kill it the first time. Don't give them a chance to steal back a turn from you. Take KOs or focus on the setup. Sometimes it's okay just not taking KOs. Key cards here, your Gust, so your Counter Catcher, your Prime Catcher, they allow you to keep attacking during a Sada attack, which allows our 1 prize army to do their thing. Koraidon is very strong with the Unrelenting Onslaught. It takes out your Fezandipitis, and it also can knock out, other small Pokemon they put down, like the Duraludons. And Ancient Booster Capsule, this just allows your Raging Bolt to sit active with 300 hit points, making it bigger than the, the Binding Moki Archaludon, and it does not get poisoned, so the poison damage cannot get you between turns. That's why I put, one of the reasons I put it in here. These decks are pretty good as long as you're just a little more patient. Don't let the poison scare you. Raging Bolt EX, so Mirror Match, oh dear god. Go first, preferably, because you're playing the Owls. Don't bench your 1 prizers. If they take 2 prizes before you do, the game is pretty much cooked, because you don't swing back. So again, Briar is a card I love here. Aim for the turn 2 KO. Use the Noctowl, set up. You've already put 1 attachment down. Go for it. 1 prize board if you force to go second. Again, do you really see any value getting that first KO? Unless it's a 2 prizer, you really don't. So just focus on the setup, and then you start swinging. Make them go 1-2-2-2. Hunt the Teal Mask and Fez. Yeah, the combo gets harder and harder to do if their support Pokemon fall off, and Raging Bolt usually only has the 2 from the Sada and the 1 further attached, so 210. If we're constantly killing their Teal masks, they'll have usually 1 or 2 Night Stretcher or none. So then we just have to kind of burn up the Ogrepons and see if we can get to the end that way. Key cards here, I like using Baby Bolts if I have to poke and do 60 damage onto a Raging Bolt. And then I'll set up a Koraidon in the back, so then you'll get 60 from the Baby Bolt, and then you'll have the 180 in the back from the Koraidon. So then I can counter catcher and take 2 prizes and stay even with them. And then they would only take 1 prize. So then there are 3 prizes, and then that's when I bust out my Raging Bolt and go 2. Another thing you can do is you can use Turo late and take off any 2 prize liabilities and make them start working through the 1 prize army. So you don't have to start with the 1 prize army. You can, close out with it too. It's a very good thing to have, whereas a lot of decks are only playing, either the 1 Slither Wing or the 1 Baby Bolt or just the 2 of them. You have 3, you can typically outlast them. Terapagos EX. Okay, whether it's with boof or without boof, go first. Push for the turn 1 attack if going second. So if you see an opportunity to take out a 2 prizer before them, this is usually what swings the game in your favor. Do not overbench. Again, they're looking for 2/2/2s because they cap out at 240 damage, right? So if you start charming stuff or you start booster capsuling stuff, you get too big for them. Hold your HP buff tools until the exact moment. If they don't know you have them, then you can, place them down before they're planning a KO. So if I'm coming in with a Raging Bolt and they're going to say, oh, well, he's going to take my turtle or he's going to take something, and then I'm just going to respond on it and blah, blah, blah. Well, you can actually throw your tool down as you're declaring the attack and then making them go, do you have the answer to this and that? And because they play Area 0, not the Tool Jammer, they usually can't get through your Raging Bolt, which means it's going to survive another turn. Koraidon, also Oko's boofed Terapagos, which is why I keep leaving it in here. It's my second favorite deck to play at the moment, so I'm going to know how to beat it. Koraidon just makes that matchup free, and if I don't overbench, then there's going to come a point where I have a 1 prize board state taking out your 2 prize Terapagos. If they do opt to use the Clefairy, I still would try to save the counter catcher for a Koraidon knockout on, Fez or the Terapagos, something that you can kind of work through. If you see the opportunity to take your Raging Bolt baby and snipe Hoothoots before they evolve, or snipe any puzzle pieces, but if they're playing the Bouffalants, it's not even worth it. You got to try to stay with the 2s, right? Because they're going to have a minus 60 damage reduction. It does get a little dicey there. Fan Rotom to set up. Koraidon because it's hitting for weakness. The booster capsules because they make you bigger than the 240 that Terapagos caps at. If they start playing Black Belt Dojo or whatever, then we might be in a bit of trouble, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Gholdengo. Gholdengo plays with pretty much anything at this point. There's like an Ethan's Typhlosion coming. There's Dragapult. I'm sure you could probably play it with Charizard, Saraluge, Dragapult, whatever. I said Dragapult twice because it's starting to see a lot more play. Go first. Again, we don't get anything taking a 1 prize KO. So maintain the 1 prize board state. We want the Gholdengo to come out before our Raging Bolt has to come out. You need to take the first 2 prizes. 1, 1, 2, 2 is the cleanest way to get through this game. Gholdengos are only 70 hit points. You should be able to. If you see a Dracloak, kill the Dracloak. Conserve your resources. Your energy and your gust are very, very important. Especially your boss, especially your counter catcher. I try not to squawk in these instances because I know they're going to come back to haunt me in the end. Use your 1 prizers to skew the trade. You might go 1, 2, 1, 2. Whatever you got to do. In key cards, do not play the damn squawk. This is the main matchup. Unless you can't get into the game, don't play it. Your Night Stretchers, your Retrievals, they're going to be knocking at your 1 prizers, and if we just keep recycling them, they're going to, keep having to discard them because we are chonky. Like, it takes 3 or 4 energy to knock out any of the ancient Pokemon with the booster capsule. So it's very, very annoying. Yeah, as long as you're keeping the Dragapults off the board, Gholdengo is a very good matchup to beat on. Wall decks. Gotta hate this deck. This is a bad matchup, but winnable if played right. I put all these cards on the screen because there's a few times I forgot what the card does. So Frigoraph is pain in the ass. Melodic, we can work around it. Mimikyu, we can work around it. Cornerstone, we can pretty much work around it. Frigoraph is biggest pain in this deck. Restrict your bench. Don't overbench. They might even start playing the Wellspring Ogerpon for the saw block. Take her out, Giraffe Rig on site. I'm telling you right now, when it evolves to Frigoraph, we have the means to take it out, but it is so difficult to maintain or take out 2 of them. So take them out before they evolve. Utilize the 1-prizers. Again, they can all hit Frigoraph EX because it only blocks Pokemon EX, and they're usually the hardest thing to answer. Manage your Gust and Turo closely. So maybe they start using Dirty Beam to put 30 on things on the bench that are close to KO, whether it's a Hoothoot, a Noctowl, whatever. Deny that extra prize if you can. Some key cards, again, there were times where I was playing 2 boss and this wasn't an issue, but playing the 1 boss does get a little tricky. So if I keep seeing this deck, I might go back to putting 2 boss in. If I see less Terabox and more wall decks, I probably will cut a Slitherwing and put it in. Koraidon just sees way too much value in Terapagos, and Terapagos is so good going forward. Like, come on now. Some other matchups, we're talking Dragapult variants. I clustered them all together because they pretty much function the same. They all want to Badoo lock you turn 1. So go first when possible. Discard a couple things when available, and then try to set yourself up for a Sada or a Crispin for the first turn. Assess the board state pressure points. What makes their board function? Who's the most invested? Have they been manually attaching to something? Do they seem to really be putting emphasis on evolving their ghosts? Okay, maybe we start hunting the ghosts. Keep an energy on a Noctowl. So the most common thing they do after you take a knockout on a Dragapult is they will counter catcher, bring up the Noctowl, Badoo, and then because you're at a small hand and you're kind of at the mercy of it, you can't retreat with the Latias. Latias is the other card I like to put down early because if they try to strand something active and then go Itchy Pollen, I just move it and come back. Noctowl doesn't work, so they will try to strand it, get a couple turns, and then just rebuild up their board or build up their board and try to hunt you. I wouldn't do that. Monkey is just a stand-in here for it's mostly just a stand-in for the non-ghost variants, but again, you're usually not two-shotting anything in this deck. It's just one-hit KOs. Because it's not worth putting damage on the board because then they'll fling it back on you. And then the Phantom Dive gets scary when it's doing 9 damage counters. Watch your resources, prepare for the unfair stamp. Death, taxes, and getting Itchy Pollen with an unfair stamp. Like, it's just going to happen. You got to know. The first KO, you got to make it count. You got to prep your board as much as you humanly can because it is coming. Use defensive tools after they start putting counters. Latias is my favorite. Brave Charm, Crispin, Turo, these are all defensive measures. You just kind of have to play it out and you'll get a feel of it because they really do the same thing again and again, but Badoo just makes it seem a little different. Zacian, Snorlax. Zacian is just trying to put damage on the board. They're going to want to do it first, so you go second, so they deny them that. It's one of the few matchups you want to go second. Limit your 2-prize liabilities early because Cramorant can hit up to 210 damage, so if Zacian can't put damage on them early, then it does make them bulkier. Hunt their support. Latias and Fez makes their combo harder and harder to pull off. I usually just chase the Fez until the game's over. So Zacian, Fez, Latias, that's game. Deny at least 1 Cramorant KO. If you can Turo, if you can put a Brave Charm, a Booster Capsule, something. Koraidon, again, also pulls its weight here getting the Fezandipiti. So I can go 2. Raging Bolt, take out the Zacian, retreat, put the Booster Capsule on, then Koraidon the next turn, and just take out the Fez. Then that's 4 prizes. And then all of a sudden, Cramorant is a dead card, and they're only attacking me with Snorlaxes. And those are not easy to set up turn after turn. Zoroark, I'm sure this deck is going to evolve once again. Go first. Don't overbench. I'm telling you right now. They're looking for your Teal Masks and your Hoothoots. Hunt the Darmanitan early. Flame Body Cannon with a Reversal Energy and a Choice Defiance Band means that they can knock out a Teal Mask Ogerpon without a Brave Charm and an unevolved Hoothoot, and they'll try to go 3-3 if they can. Brave Charm on the Teal Mask on the one that you're actually going to put into play, so then that way they have to decide whether they're going Hoothoot or they're going Teal Mask. They can't get both. Watch for Badoo Lock. I do find that they put it in late and be like, oh, well, all your energy's in the discard pile, so therefore I'm going to get you, or they'll backdraft you. If you've taken out the Darmanitans, their best attackers off the board. Badoo is just kind of a setup card. Everything plays. Boss and Prime Catcher are your best friends. Raging Bolt with some hit point boosting and Teal Mask with some hit point boosting is very good. I find they don't attack with the end Zoroark as much because they see the owls and go, okay, Darmanitan is going to be my best answer here. So we hunt the Darmanitan preemptively with either Baby Bolt or with our Gust cards. This one feels free once you kind of know the ins and outs. And the hit point boosting really does help. Gardevoir EX, this is by far your worst matchup. I like to go first. They are going to item lock you, but it is what it is. Try for as long as possible to deny the Gardevoir. Raging Bolts can snipe the Raltses for 3, so if you attach for turn, and then you either have a Crispin or you have a Noctowl that can go grab Crispin, then you can Baby Bolt, snipe a Ralts, then they only have 1, and then the next turn we'll try to boss's orders, take it out kind of thing. Keep them off the 2-2 prize trade. It really use the 1 prizes, as Clefairy will blow up your Bolt EX every time. Baby Bolt is pretty much like your high value card. If you can keep Koraidon to get the Fez, that's usually about 3 prizes. And then, oh god, it's just a matter of figuring out how you're gonna deal with the Lily's Clefairy. I usually try to save Raging Bolt until the very end, so then I can deal with Lily's Clefairy that way. I'll put a Teal Mask Ogerpon in the back with a Brave Charm and start slowly powering it up and make them try to answer it. Because I might just have to hit the Clefairy that way, right? Like, it's not pretty. And this is another deck that I want the Briar for. But again, we're still making it work. It's just not very favorable. Terrabox. Oh my god. Oh, okay, this is probably your second worst matchup. Go first when possible. Limit the owls if going second. Reduce Wellspring targets. I usually stagger my owls, so I'll bench 1 owl at a time. And then use my hit buff tools on Bolt. It forces the Pikachu. I mean, if they go with the Clefairy, then we're just going to respond on it the next turn. But we can use the 1 prize army here. It's still kind of a little silly. 1 prize and hunt support Pokemon, your Fezes, your Squawks, your Latiases. We try to hunt those when possible. But again, Pikachu is a Slitherwing target. Clefairy has to be Raging Bolt for the most part. They don't usually use Briar anymore, but take prizes in 2 unless you're hunting the Hoots. You can also destabilize their board late because they are very reliant on Noctowl, but they play so friggin' many. Raging Bolt. If you can get the first one, sure, that's good value, but the second one is not always good value, so I don't know. This one's iffy. Briar, I do, again, like Briar for this deck. Like, Terapagos Briar, we're going to work it in for this to see if it does actually pull the value that I want it to. Slitherwing, Koraidon, Ancient Booster, Raging Bolt. Again, I'm not going to waste too much time on this one because it's a bad matchup. Rogue decks. So, did I not include your favorite pet deck? Well, there's probably a reason for that. Go first when blind. These decks usually have a consistency issue. There's a reason why they're rogue decks and not meta decks. Rogue can still win, but it's not going to see as much play as the other decks playing. Apply pressure early. Sometimes you can just figure out where their deck functions and run them off the board if you take that out once or twice. Maybe they TM Evo'd to something and, oh, one of them's a support Pokemon, one of them's an attacker. Okay, so maybe I just took out the support Pokemon and now the deck crumbles. Identify your prize map. If they overbench to set up, maybe they need the Squawk, maybe they need the Fez, maybe they need the Latias, maybe they need all these 2 prizers into play. Okay, that falls right into what we want to do and go 2-2-2. Easy, take advantage. Raging Bolt is your beat stick if they ever get too big. Sada, Prime Catcher, and Squawk if we need to push for pressure. For Alligators on here, it's not the cleanest matchup, but we do have a couple answers. But for the most part, all of these decks are pretty free. There's other ones in there. I was going to look like 25 decks, but we'd be here talking for hours, guys. Taking a strategic loss to a rogue deck is not bad either, again, which is why we bring up for Alligator. If they retreat lock you, I think that's your biggest weakness, is you really can't afford it, because if you accidentally bench a Latias early or a Squawk starts early or something like that, you only have 1 Turo, so maybe you prize it, and then there's just no way of getting out of that game. So don't worry about losing to a rogue deck. If it happens 1 in 100 times, I think you're doing all right. If it's happening 10 or 15% of the time, you might need to go back to the drawing board. All right, now we're going to talk about the future-proof stuff. Destined Rivals. So regardless of what the deck is, they're coming. Raging Bolt is pretty much a lock going forward. Go first when possible. A lot of decks need to evolve, or their support Pokemon need to evolve. All of these Pokemon need some sort of evolution to help them. Aim to take the first 2 prizes. If you go 1-1, 2-2, or something along those lines, giving up the first prize is fine, so long as you get the first 2, right? Nothing here is scaring me. Use a 1 prize board to feel out the deck. So again, we've been talking heavily about how important the 1 prize board state is with your Hootoots and your Ancient Army and your Rotom. Use that. I don't see any of these decks sniping. Bolt is your instant delete button. There's a few decks here that want to get really big. Like Garchomp, I think, caps out at 400 hit points with its own new tool card. By all means, just discard 6 energy instead of 5, and you will get right through them. You can also play Jamming Tower and bring them back down to a deletable level. Raging Bolt is the insta-win button, and your 1 prizers are mostly just so you can see how they're going to map out their board. And if you've used the fundamentals that you've picked up today, it doesn't matter what you're going to see. So when somebody says, where's the matchup guide for this? Where's the matchup guide for this? You've learned so much that you don't realize applies to the other decks. It's just a new coat of paint. And Raging Bolt is still going to find a way to get through it. It just kicks the door in like the really old Kool-Aid man. It is a tier 1 deck for the rest of 2025. You can fight me in the comments, because it will be a tier 1 deck. There's nothing taking it off the pedestal anytime soon. And oh, we made it to the end. The closing thoughts. The deck is future-proof. That's why I'm making the guide now. This is a well-invest-in-now deck that's going to see play for the rest of the year until it rotates or whenever it goes. It helps you grow as a player. Maybe you're a little rusty, maybe you're coming back, maybe you're new to trading card games. Maybe you're coming over from Pocket. If I've kept your attention this long, welcome aboard. The deck is flexible. Again, I've talked about the Terapagos Briar combo that I'm going to experiment with. I do think that might give it additional legs. We shall see. Probably not. I don't know. I'm still open to testing. And it's going to feast on Mega Pokemon. So Mega Pokemon are coming out towards the end of the year at the start of 2026, and Raging Bolt will be here for that. When your opponent plays a Mega Pokemon, your opponent takes 3 prizes when it's knocked out. You're telling me I can Bellow Thunder my way for 6 energy and take 3 prizes on a single KO? So that 1, 2, 3 prize map I was complaining about trying to get to is now even easier? Hell, I might only need to take 1, 2 prize knockout, and then I can take a 4 prize Briar on Mega Gardevoir. Who knows? We don't know where they're going with the Mega Pokemon, but the point is that Raging Bolt can hit as hard as you need. 2 Teal Masks, Sada, an attachment is 5. Oh no, maybe you need to attach a 3rd one. Maybe you need to dust off the old Sandy Shocks from back in the day and get your Raging Bolt. It's not going to be that hard. I think you're poised to do very well with the deck. And if you enjoyed the video and stayed till the end, I hope you guys have a great day, and we'll see you in the next one.